you know, as a Vaishnava confidant. And I'm sad I didn't get to say goodbye, but I know that, you know, he will have gone to a very wonderful place. So I feel very blessed that Krishna arranged for us to experience this wonderful Vaishnava friendship with all the etiquette involved. It was truly inspiring, and it will stick with me the rest of my days. So that's my share. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Nandapatni Prabhu. I noticed Tota Gopinath's here. I know he had a lot of discussions with Makhanacora in the last little while. So Tota, are you there? Can you unmute? Don't you know, we may have lost Tota, so I'm going to go down the list. Adi Jaga, we're talking about the dancer. Adi Jaga is all about the golden dancer. Are you there, Adi Jaga? Okay, we lost Adi Jaga. Come back.
Can I say something about Partha? Tota Gopinath.
Sorry, who's speaking?
Is a person who, this is Jeanette.
Okay, sorry.
I just wanted to say one thing about him. He was calling Mark on a very regular basis and never talked to him as though he were ill. He just talked to him. And Mark Makhanacora loved that so much. He looked forward to not having to kind of run down what was happening and, you know, any kind of sympathetic stuff. It was just life. And I just want to say that about Tota. It was a beautiful thing that he did.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
Jivan Mukta, would you like to say something? Left on unmute yourself.
Got my bases. You know, I could, my memory of Makhanacora is very limited, but it was really, really sweet. I met him in Edmonton in the early 80s. There was a Sankirtan, you know, meeting there with all the devotees from Vancouver, and some of us from the East Coast were there, and Gopal Krishna Maharaj was there, and we were all, you know, enlivening each other on how to make more Lakshmi for Krishna, and we would go out and with the paintings and all that stuff. But one thing that I recall distinctly about Makhanacora was he was very scholarly. I remember him inspiring me in memorizing the shlokas, Prahlad Maharaj's shlokas to Lord Nrsimhadev, and of course Lord Rishabhdev's instructions to his sons. And those were a couple of things that really kind of inspired me after I had left Edmonton to really study and memorize. But he was the sweetest devotee, just real gentle soul. And we did spend some time in the East Coast. He came here and we traveled around a little bit. And as things have it in this material world, you know, we never really had an opportunity to associate at all after that. And, you know, when I heard about his passing away, I was just, you know, so saddened, because I would have so much would have appreciated getting some of his association now after all these years. So I just want to offer my condolences to his family and his friends and his wife and his children. And I just want to say that although my association with him was very short, it was just like, it was so sweet. It was wonderful. It was enough to give me an impression of a really very wonderful soul. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Did I see Balakrishna Prabhu? Did you want to say something?
Okay, I can speak. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Well, I'll just share one memory. I have many memories of Makhanacora, actually, off and on over the years. But especially in 1975, I went to Seattle Temple and as the temple president. And at that time, there was one young devotee, high school student, coming to the temple regularly, almost daily, even though he was still going to high school. And then it came time for graduation from high school, and he already had the plan to move into the temple as soon as he graduated. And at that time, his parents came to the temple and contacted me, and they came to talk. His parents came up to speak with me as the temple president. They were very concerned about their young son. And they wanted, of course, they were very uncomfortable about his connection and association with the temple and the Hare Krishnas. And they came to speak to me as the temple president to try and understand better how they should encourage their son. And they met with me, I remember quite vividly, in my office at the time. And I spoke with his parents about why it would be better for him to just to move into the temple rather than to go to university and go to college and get a degree. So the parents weren't very, they left that meeting and I don't think they were very happy with my insights and advice on the whole situation, because I was encouraging them to appreciate the fact that he should move into the temple and he'll get a much better education and a much better life as a devotee than going to university and becoming part of that establishment. So shortly after that, Makhanacora did in fact graduate and become a full-time devotee in the temple, but he never spent much time at the Seattle temple, because at that time the Seattle temple and the Vancouver temple were working very closely together under the same GBC zone and so on. And so at that time, it was, in those days, we used to trade devotees, kind of like they do even today in professional sports, you know. One team will trade their quarterback for two linesmen or something like that to another team. So in those days, the temples used to trade devotees, one good Sankirtan devotee for two women collectors or something like that, and one good pot washer for the kitchen. So anyway, Makhanacora got traded to Vancouver to go on the men's brahmachari program, and some of the ladies from Vancouver came to Seattle. So we had a trade happen like that. So that was 1975 when he first became a devotee. And I still, to this day, remember his parents and their concern for Makhanacora. So we have another thing I can say is that so many devotees that know Makhanacora, everybody remembers him with sweetness and fondness. And I also remember him that way. So thank you. Thought I'd share that little story with you. Hari Bol.
Thank you, Balakrishna Prabhu. Now, I'd like to ask Janine. Jeanette.
I don't want to, hog this.
Just say a few words.
My sister and Mark came to visit me and stayed here many times, and one of them was in 2016 when one of my little cats here had a hematoma. so that her ear flopped over, blood vessel was broken, and it became kind of a little cauliflower ear, But it was very stressful. And anyway, and my sister and I went for a walk, and when we came back, she was sitting on his chest as he was reading, lying here on the couch. And he was, as a friend of my sis used to say, he's very playable. He had a very wonderful, playful warmth to him that just made him so approachable, not just by people, but animals, And I think of the many people I've ever met in my life. I think he was one of the most, he did have humility. He did have curiosity about the world and about other people. And he was just so easy to talk to. Also, I want to throw in that they came once to visit my significant other and I, my husband, my boyfriend, whatever. It's complicated. They came out to visit us when we were in Woodland Hills. And that's the first time that I met Genevieve and Will. And I found myself thinking, he raised these kids pretty much, from what I understood. Wow, they're really great. And I met them again in what year was it? The year my sister and Mark got married. And they're lovely, his kids. And that says a lot about him too. So that's all I have to say. I miss him. Seeing those pictures made me cry. I'm going to miss him. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for sharing that.
I want to correct something. Shoot, under an impression there. Genevieve and Will had two very active parents that split the parenting right down the middle. And Makhanacora was kind of the good cop, and Rhea held the line, and she'd find creative programming for them. They coordinated very, very well in the parenting, and she deserves a lot of credit.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. I just wanted to.
But I know.
Okay, thank you for setting the record straight. Jai Govinda here, he has another appointment quite soon, so I'm going to ask Jai Govinda if he can speak now. And then I'm going to ask Genevieve, if that's okay with Genevieve. Can you give me a thumbs up?
Thank you. Thank you, Partha Prabhu, and please forgive me, all those who know Makhanacora, Mark, much more than I did, and especially those who are a direct godbrother. I wasn't a direct godbrother of his. I joined a little later the movement in 1983. Makhanacora was still a single bachelor, brahmachari, and he was out mostly doing collecting, as was mentioned. I somehow or other I managed to avoid most of that. So one thing that I really appreciated was watching the presentation that you put together, Partha Prabhu. I was so relatable, especially as a kid and a youth, driving his little fire engine toy car. I had something similar, and of course the style with the long hair in high school and all that. It was so relatable. What wasn't relatable for me was that when he became a parent, and obviously he became a very, very good parent. You could see the way he was with his children. He seemed to be enjoying, and I appreciated that. I remember that he was a good musician, and there used to be this one bhajan we would sing every year for a short while called the Damodara Astika. And there was a certain tune that we used to play and sing to. And then one morning he was singing and he played this different tune. And I have to honestly admit, I didn't particularly like that tune, but he did a great job on it. But then I found out later that actually, due to his scholarship, he was playing the correct tune for that time of day. Another thing I remember also is that he was very young looking. And he was actually younger than me, even though I never looked at him that way because he was a Prabhupada disciple. He joined in 75, almost a decade before me. So I always saw him as being a senior devotee, but because he looked so young, I remember the first time he was invited to give class. It was a festival at Sharanagati. He was invited to give class. And when he gave class, I was thinking, why is he giving class? He's such a young devotee. I was thinking like that until I heard him speak, and he was so eloquent with his speaking and also so knowledgeable. It kind of reminded me a little bit of this devotee Shukadev Goswami, who was only 16 years old, and he was addressing this audience of sadhus, seasoned sadhus. So those were a few things. I was running the Bhakta program, training the new Bhaktas, and he was out collecting, and then we switched roles. I was a little annoyed by that, but it had nothing to do with him. It was the temple management, of course. I was a little annoyed by that, and not annoyed with him. And but when I came back, I bought a book that was put out. Srila Prabhupada did. It was the book on comparative philosophies, or the philosophies, all the different philosophers from the ancient to the more modern, and Srila Prabhupada giving his perspective. And so I gave that as a gift to him, knowing that he was a great scholar, and he seemed to appreciate that. And for many years, I was putting on the dhoti. This is the devotee clothing, and I would put it on a certain way. And then one day, he pointed out that actually I'm not doing it right. So he actually trained me on how to properly dress in Vaishnava attire, which to this day I'm also very, very grateful about. So I do have to leave a little earlier. So I just wanted to say that and say a few words just to acknowledge my gratitude for having known Makhanacora Mark, and certainly even though in latter years when he moved to Seattle, we kind of lost touch, but I always appreciated him as being a very gentle soul, warm-hearted, and he'll sorely be missed. So thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, Partha.
Haribol.
It's Toda.
Haribol Toda.
I got kicked out.
Okay.
I'm
I'll
back.
let you speak now, and then I'm going to ask Jonavi to go next, and then Will, if they're both okay with that. Very good. So go ahead, Toda Gopinath.
Hare Krishna. All glories to Makhanacora.
If you can go maybe 2 to 5 minutes, because a fair number of people want to speak.
I joined with Makhanacora, and we got initiated together. And Hare Krishna and Napatni, I haven't seen you in about 40 years.
Hare Krishna to
But,
you.
But Makhanacora and I were, brahmacharis together. We got initiated together. We shaved up on the same day and went on the first traveling Sankirtan party that Adi Jaga put together when he was a Bhakta leader in the 70s. And Makhanacora was, even though we joined at the same time, he was like the advanced godbrother. I always looked up to him. We came from different paths, and he was always the devotee that, we were talking about it a few weeks ago. And I said, you remember those cards we used to have to remember slokas? And every time we had one remembered, we had put it on this ring. And Mak says, I still have all those. I still remember most of them. Well, I think I had about 2 on my ring because I couldn't remember any of them. But Makhanacora always, lent a hand to me when I joined the temple. I didn't know how to read properly, even English. And Mak was always there to be gentle and guide me through a lot of things. And it was nice that when he did come to Vancouver, we'd always seek each other out with his wife, and we would have Prasadam together at Rath Yatra. And in the last few months, it was really nice staying in touch with him. We had a bond. I didn't know how much I meant to him, but I knew how much it meant to me. And, Yeah, he was a special devotee. And in the end, when we were talking a lot, he said, I want to give you all this nectar that I have. So he sent me all of Prabhupada's lectures, which, you know, I've been listening to at least 2 or 3 hours every single day since he sent them to me. And he said, this is the last preaching I'll be able to do. So he took me under his wing 45 years ago, and he did it again. Jai Makhanacora. All glories to Makhanacora. Haribol.
Thank you for that, Tota Gopinath Prabhu. Jonavi, are you ready? You are muted, yeah.
I don't really have much to say, but I do want to introduce Makhanchora's grandchildren, who you did see videos or pictures of in the slideshow. They're a little bit older now, so come here. So this is Felix.
Hi.
Say hi. Hi.
Haribol.
Hi.
So he's 6 now, but it's funny, he has a lot of resemblance to my dad, especially when he was young. So I think he's gonna grow up and look a lot like him. Come here. And this is Ida.
Oh.
So she was like, I think the pictures of my dad, like she was just a little tiny baby in that slideshow. So she's a little bigger now, force to be reckoned with. And then this is Tristan, my husband.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously really sad to have left for my dad to leave so soon after like watching his battle with cancer, but I don't know, the way that he did it, it was inspiring, and it was really great to be there at the end, and especially like as a devotee, seeing all of his altars by him and that how important that was. It was really special. You know,
Very special.
I like took on feeling like really protective of him having Hare Krishna like Prabhupada. And I, you know, made him have a tilak, and you know, I even told him when it was towards the end, I was like, you are so loved. And we're gonna be okay, and like you can relax and go be with Krishna. And he looked me in the eyes and he nodded. And that was really special. You know, that day, like less than an hour later, he was gone. So just knowing like his devotion for Krishna and Prabhupada, and I know how much all of you meant to him, and it's really lovely to see how much he meant to all of you. So thank you.
Thank you, Johnny. Your father was a saint who walked amongst us. We were very fortunate to have his association. Will, can I ask you to speak now?
Yes. Hi.
After Will, if I think Vicky's there, his sister, we'd like Vicky to say something if she would like to. After Will.
I'm just going to keep my camera on just for a second because I don't know if I'm going to be able to kind of keep it together while I'm reading this, but I did kind of write some stuff down that I wanted to say, and I'll see if I can kind of get through it. But thank you all for being here. Thank you for setting this up. I appreciate it. So I'll just go into it here 1 second. Oh. There's so much I want to say about my father. He was an amazing man and the best dad that I could ever ask for. I could talk with him about anything for hours on end. It didn't matter what the subject was. He would always show interest, and not just that, he would listen to me. He genuinely cared about my life and how I was doing. I'm so glad that me and my sister, Jonavi, turned out the way we did, because I know he's so proud of both of us and the lives that we have. I learned so much from him about life, and what kind of person that I wanted to be. I've said this before, but he was the kindest man that I ever knew. And there have been so many of his family and friends and even acquaintances that have said the same. He was warm, welcoming, calm, and friendly with anyone he ever interacted with. It was no wonder that he was loved by so many. I'm so glad that I had him as a father in my life. There was not even a hint of toxic masculinity in him at all, and that has shaped me into the man that I am today. I wouldn't be where I am today without him and the influence that he had on me. Last month, my sister and I went through a storage room of my father's belongings, and we were amazed by what we found. Every single card, drawing, and even Christmas list that my sister and I gave to him, he kept and he had in that room. That just shows how much we meant to him and what a special experience it was for him to be our father. Sorry. One of my favorite memories of my father was going to Boom City in Marysville every year. He would bring paintings that he had accumulated over the years since he used to sell paintings, and we would barter for fireworks. It was always great seeing him go into salesman mode and walk up to a fireworks stand and say, "We're showing out oil paintings. Do you like paintings?" And without fail, every year we ended up with fireworks, and he ended up with some money. I think that's a big reason why 4th of July is one of my favorite holidays. Not because of the fireworks, but because I got to spend the day with my dad. There's so much more I want to say, but I don't want to take up too much time. I love you so much, Dad, and I'm going to miss you so much. I'm just glad that your soul is with Krishna now. Thank you.
Beautiful. Is Partha muted? Is Partha muted? Are you muted, Partha?
I'm sorry, I was just saying that I actually knew your grandfather, Will, and Janavi, and I could really see where your dad got the wonderful qualities he had, because your grandfather also was an absolute impeccable gentleman, and I met him in, I don't know, maybe 1979, and it was amazing how Makhanacora in the last few years he looks just like his dad, and they really had the same heart. They're both very beautiful people. Okay, I don't see Vicky there. There's a few people I don't know. You might want to talk, and maybe you're shy. There's Lori and Lori, is it Gilbert? And Nancy, would you like to say anything? If you can think about it for a minute, I'll ask someone else to talk, and I'll come back to you. I won't put you on the spot right in a minute, but I'm going to ask Kantimati, my dear god sister there, if she'd like to say something.
Me?
Yes.
Horrible. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Well, I have nothing but sweet memories of Makhanacora Prabhu. I remember when they were young boys, they meaning Brajananda, Yoginath, Makhanacora. These were a group of young kids that came to the temple in Seattle. And as life would have it, the temple went through so many changes, and we had several temple presidents after Sukadev had left the temple. And the temple was in a bit of a strange transition period. And we were moving to Vancouver, and I believe I'd already moved to Vancouver, but I was back and forth to Seattle, and I gave a ride to Makhanacora Rajananda to come up to Vancouver when things were a little bit just not settled. And just the most joyful, happy, nothing seemed to really bother him too much. You know, he's going with the flow all the time. Such a sweet soul. And you remember Balakrishna when all that was going on? And he just immediately took like a duck to water when we got to Vancouver. He just jumped right in, doing Sankirtan, little deity worship. Once in a while, he would come in the kitchen, which is where I always was. And then he came back to Seattle, and I came back to Seattle many years later. And Mak would always attend any program that there was going on, anything to do with a program. He would come. And I believe he would go up to Mount Vernon from Seattle. He lived in West Seattle, not too far from me, for quite some time. He would travel all the way to Mount Vernon to go up to Dhamma Ghosh's programs. Dhamma Ghosh had a little temple going on up there, a little farm temple. And he always videoed. Dhamma Ghosh always put everything on the video. And I would always see Makhanacora there playing the drum and being blissful, always so blissful. And even when he was sick, Lavanya put on a program at a library here in West Seattle. And there he was very sick. He asked me if there was anything he could do, if I knew of anything he could do, that he was ill. And gave him a few suggestions, but I could see that, he was on a different path with that health program. And so, I prayed for him. And his Facebook profile picture of him sitting in front of Lord Jagannath, there was a big tapestry Lavanya put up. And I took that picture of Makhanacora. So I have that original picture, and I have it printed, and I look at him often, because there just wasn't an evil or an envious bone in that man's body. And he loved the kids. And that touches my heart, because I love kids too, got a million of them myself. And his kids were great, Genevieve and Will, and he loved all those kids so much. And I know they will miss him. Having a figurehead like that in your family is very, very important in a family. I'm very sad to see that will be missing, but his spirit will always be there, and his energy will always be there. So I'm just grateful to have been able to know such a devotee as Makhanacora Prabhu. So many little pastimes we could go into if we could remember, little stealing of the burfi, Mahaprasad, the Rathayatras, and all of the wonderful pastimes we had. And he was always right there. It was just the most familiar face to see, his little angelic. He had a very innocent, angelic countenance about him. And, we need more of that. So thank you so much for putting this on. It's so wonderful for me to see Partha and Balakrishna and Nandapatni, and there's more, but I can't see them come to glorify our wonderful God brother. And may he pray for all of us, because I know he's in a really wonderful place.
Laurie Gilbert, would you like to say something? And after
Yes,
her,
hi.
after
Thank
you,
you.
I'll ask Bava, and then I'm gonna just see if John Yesberger, if you would like to say something, just wave your hand.
Hi, everyone. It's really special to just be here, and especially be here for you, Jeanette. I know Mark through Jeanette, who is really important to me. She's like a sister to me, and I've known Jeanette since I first moved to Seattle, pretty much almost 30 years ago. So by the time she and Mark met each other and decided to share their life together, I had a pretty good handle on who Jeanette was as a person and as a sister, a kind of sisterhood to me. And one of the things I loved about Mark when she met him and they formed their relationship and they worked hard at really getting close and thinking well of each other is Mark just really never really failed to figure out how to make the relationship work well and think about Jeanette as her own person. It was one of the most respectful acts I've ever seen out of a man in a relationship to a woman. And I got to witness that on a couple of unique occasions because Jeanette and I know each other through the counseling community, so we don't see each other just regularly socially, but we see each other as counseling peers. And Mark was always thoughtful about that unique relationship. And whenever Jeanette would want to support me in my life's endeavors, like in my dance recitals, or when Steve and I, my partner Steve was here, we had our 10-year relationship celebration in 2010. And Jeanette and Mark showed up here with cowboy boots and cowboy hat and smiles on and dancing on the dance floor with us and just fully backed our moment. And I just love, Jeanette, you and Mark both for that time together. And I'm really sorry to see him go and so happy. He was so loved by so many of us. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Lori. We'll ask Bhava Das now. If you can unmute yourself, Bhava.
There we go. Hare Krishna. Makhanacora and I were often doing parallel things in our lives. We were both householders, so we had to maintain family. I think that Krishna allowed me to have his association, and because of that, I got to know a very wonderful, not only person, but devotee who is actually very rich in Krishna consciousness, which to me was very important and is still, of course. But I remember in Seattle, no, in Vancouver, of course, we would, we would hear his kirtans and have the nectar of his association, which was always very pleasant. I mean, when I look at those pictures, I remember him with, I never saw him get upset about him angry at anybody. There was always this very low demeanor about him. He always smiled. And even in the weirdest situations that we were through together, he just was agents. And sometimes we were in a little bit of a rivalry of colors and this and that. His offers. I was with a company called Richard James, and he was with another company, I can't remember. But anyway, we always shared. So, I appreciated that. That was one of the things that I appreciated about Mak. And at one point, he bought a little mobile home. And I bought a mobile home and parked it in the park just, I don't know, about 4 spaces away from him, because I had an attachment for Mak. I wanted to be close to him. He was one of the few devotees that we got to be, in Vancouver or in Seattle at that time, it was a little bit scarce, kind of a strange time. So, but I remember one thing that always kind of set my heart to be fond of his love for his children is that when we got home and he'd step out of the car, Genevieve would see him, and she was just an innocent little child. I don't recall how, she couldn't have been more than 3 years old at the time. And she certainly doesn't remember me, but I remember her as being a sweet and lovely little girl and so dear to Mak. He really lit up. He really lit up when he saw her. And of course, she lit up when she saw him too. So, this little toddler would run to her daddy's arms and He was so affectionate. Of course, later years ago, or years after, when I got to, oh yeah, and in that same trailer park, I would have programs at my place because it was a little bit bigger, and he would lead kirtans, and my wife would make, feasts, and Jagadish would come over, and, things like that. So we had nice little programs together, and I always invited him to please lead the kirtan because he was always just, the personality along with his ability to lead a kirtan was so, so nice, so sweet. So I'll take out a couple of more minutes. Later, when I was going down to Seattle, I would go down there to do some business. And whenever I was there, I knew that his door was always open for me, which, is always, very welcome to me because his home felt like my home. I could just go there, and I remember Janavi and Will, they probably don't remember me, but I remember Will was playing guitar so much and it was really loud. And Muck just wasn't fazed by anything. I just always saw him with a smile on his face. And going back to Vancouver, if I can, and I think this is what Connie Mahdi alluded to, was I think he was there when we stole all that maha out of that room. But we were sneaking. Of course, now Connie Mahdi, and I don't mean to shift the attention here, but Connie Mahdi was always known as the sweet maker. She made the best burfi and all these different things for Rath Yatra, and everybody knew that. She was unsurpassed. But she stored them in this one room, and Partha, you probably remember that, was close to the old temple. It was in that old parking lot there. Where Daddy Harda once had a little restaurant, cafe, Daddy's Cafe. And she stored this burfi in these frozen, and this freezers. And we thought, well, Krishna is known as Makhanacora, and it's okay to steal this. So, it's all Krishna conscious. It's a pastime, and, he's here, I'm here, we're there, and all of this. So somehow or other, we got that lock, the bolt. Somehow or other, got the bolt off. We opened these freezer doors, because it was a kind of a freezer that is like this. We opened those freezer doors, and we were completely dumbfounded how much prasadam was in there. And I don't even know if it was offered, but anyway, we thought, okay, this is Krishna's pastimes, let's do it. And it was fun. But then somehow or other, Connie Mahdi's radar was on, and he came around the corner, and boy, it's like you see that picture of Krishna being caught by his mother. And, when he's stealing the butter and the yogurt from the containers. Well, boy, we were all shocked because, Connie Mahdi's a small little woman, and boy, she roared like a lion, and she just put the fear in our hearts. And, of course, Makhanacora is just a sweet guy, and everything was, you can't get upset with Mak. I just never even thought about being upset with him. He just had so much love in his heart. He was always very Krishna conscious. And, I don't think she got angry at him either. But we kind of split a little bit, and then Bauda came around the corner. And he chastised us really heavy in front of Connie Mahdi. And I think she was appeased by that. And she took off. And then something that he said to us, I don't think Connie Mahdi ever knew. But he said, you know that was the wrong thing to do. She put so much work into it for Krishna. But the next time you steal, just don't get caught. And we thought, well, thank you. And we'll definitely do our best not to get caught, especially by Connie Mahdi. But anyway.
Prabhu.
Yes.
I'll
let it go. I'll stop.
Thank you. There's a few people here, probably a little shy to write in the chat box or let me know if they want to speak. Like,
sure.
Lauren Esta, would you like to speak?
Jai.
Okay, just unmute yourself. And
Sure.
then we have Adi Jaga.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I know a lot of people have talked about this today, but I was just always struck by Mark's, his quiet peace and his love, It just always felt like he was receiving the world and that he was sending so much love out into it. And it's been really special for me today to hear all of these stories from everybody who was a part of his life and to hear the stories. So thank you everyone for sharing. And I will continue to be inspired by him.
Thank you. Thank you. Adi Jaga Prabhu. Did we lose you, Adi Jaga? Okay. Yoginath Prabhu, I think you're there. Oh, there's Adi Jaga.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Go ahead.
Okay, Haribol, hey, businesses to, in respects to, you know, all of Makhanacora's family and to all the devotees. And so I'm honored to be a part of your group for giving some, you know, eulogy to Makhanacora Prabhu. And like everyone says, he never had any envy, but I had envy for him because of his name, you know, Makhanacora. I don't know why he got that name, but he got it because he's such a lovely guy. And well, we were lucky. We had his association. He was in my Bhakta program, new Bhakta program. And he was right there all the time. Never seen him in a depression or anxiety. Can you hear me, everybody?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, you know, sometimes devotees have, new devotees have some doubts and some anxiety. But never seen that in Makhanacora Prabhu. He had a strong faith right from the beginning. And then we went out on traveling Sankirtan together. And on my traveling Sankirtan party, so we had a small trailer. And we used to burn frankincense incense in there. The one that, you know, is to create the clouds of smoke. So, you know, he told me later on that he had some asthma, if I could, because I was pretty attached to that incense, but, you know, he was bothering him, so we stopped the incense. Anyway, on my party, we worked pretty hard, and we had a motto that if you're not happy, you know, just get happy. So yeah, he liked that. And I seen him afterwards at Rath Yatras, at stuff like that. And he was always, you know, happy. We had a good reunion. Last time I saw him was in Seattle, maybe 2012 or something like that. And I was staying at a hotel on a tour, and he came over and visited me, and we had a good talk. I sold him a book, probably was Govinda Lilamrita or something like that. And yeah, so wherever he's gone, we want to go there too. So anyway, glories to Srila Prabhupada and all of his disciples, and humble obeisances to Makhanacora Prabhu.
Thank you, Yoginath Prabhu. I mean, Adi Jaga. I'm going to ask Yoginath, but before Yoginath starts, there's John, yes, is it Yesberger? Would you like to speak, John? Wave your hand if you'd like to speak. All right, Yoginath and then John. And if you can keep it a little short, 2 to 5 minutes max. Your mute button should be lower. There you go.
It is. Yes, Makhanacora and I, our lives ran quite parallel there for a few years. We were both born and raised in North Seattle suburbs. We both joined at the Seattle Temple. We were both traded to the Vancouver Temple. And then we both traveled together on what was called traveling Sankirtan. And when you're living with 2, 3, 4 other people in a van and traveling, eating there, sleeping there, bathing somehow there, you really get to know somebody. And what I really appreciate about Makhanacora, as has been said by everybody, so it must be true, is that he was such a congenial personality, just did not get upset. And so he was quite pleasant to travel with. And I'll just share one thing. Makhanacora and I were together when Srila Prabhupada left this world. And it was significant in my mind because you see that his congenial personality wasn't just he happened to be a nice guy. In my mind, it was based on he had a deep spiritual realization. So anyway, we were in a house in Edmonton, Alberta in the cold November 1977. And then we got the phone call. Oh, Srila Prabhupada had passed away. And now when you think about it, we were both, kids in our 20s. We hadn't really associated with Srila Prabhupada. I'd seen him once, and I don't even know if Makhanacora ever saw Prabhupada. So we get the phone call that your guru has left this world.
Makhanacora, he passed away.
So can I unmute or mute?
He's probably stayed in our.
Anyway, so we get the phone call. Srila Prabhupada has left his body. And we're young kids, we don't know anything. So what? But then we started to chant some bhajans on that day. And then the whole day we were like crying together, right? Two kids about somebody that you never even met. So what it showed me that there was nothing superficial about his spiritual understanding of who he was or why he was doing it or where he was going. It was clear that this guy's faith is rock solid, and it's not based on anything other than his realization of absolute truth. So I so much appreciated that with Makhanacora. And then after that, maybe 5-7 year period, our lives separated. On numerous occasions, I tried to get him to convince him to move to Sharanagati because I enjoyed his company, but that never happened. So after that, it was just every year, it was kind of like a highlight. We'd meet at the Vancouver Rath Yatra, spend 20 minutes having a good laugh, and then see him the next year. So anyway, that's my remembrance of Makhanacora.
Thank you, Yoginath Prabhu. We'll ask John now. John Jesperger. Did I get that right? Are you ready to go, John?
Right. I think I'm unmuted now. Oh, you hear me?
You
can't hear me?
I can hear you now, yeah.
Oh, okay. I'd just like to say.
After John, we'll have Kanhaya next after John.
I'd just like to say a couple things. Yeah. I lived in West Seattle, and we were good friends, and I got to know him even before that. I think at Brighton Bush back in 1984 at Hot Springs. He's such an inquisitive person, and I just felt him as being there, present, just in the moment when I talk with him, but we also shared this sense of humor, laughed a lot, and a bit of a mischievous humor between us. Lots of fun and willingness to just be there with each other and experience. And anyway, I think just a beautiful, beautiful friend. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Now is it Kanhaya? I think he's there somewheres.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Kanhaya.
Go ahead. And after you will be Nancy Lee.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for letting me be part of this program, Prabhu. I have a million memories. Can you hear me, Prabhu?
Yes.
Okay. I have about 1 million memories with the Makhanacora Prabhu, and first part of his life, when he was in the temple, very few memories with whatever stories he had told me, him being a full-time devotee in the temple. Separate to that, the stories that I have is, I can write a book about it. 15 years of continuous association with him. Makhanacora Prabhu became a part of us, really. I mean, he, not just part of me, but part of my family members. Everybody loved him to death. My kids grew up in front of him, and the moment we came to know that Makhanacora Prabhu is suffering from this, and then he may leave this body pretty soon. It was hard for me to control my kids because they were such in love with Makhanacora Prabhu, his attitude, his humbleness, and with him, and also with the Janet Mataji. Whenever we think about Makhanacora Prabhu, all we think about is him as a happy face. Prabhupada used to say that a devotee is always happy, and that was Makhanacora Prabhu. A proper, really Vaishnava etiquette that he had shown to us. So him and I, and Damagosh, and few other devotees like Frank Prabhu and Anant Vijay Prabhu, we shared a lot of stories together, a lot of pastime. We did fire sacrifices together, chanting together, dancing together, many Janmashtamis. I can't even remember a Janmashtami passed by without Makhanacora Prabhu's kirtan in it. And the one kirtan that I always remember is I used to pray to Makhanacora Prabhu. Makhanacora Prabhu, can you sing Jai Radha Madhav? About one of his best kirtan, the melody that he used to sing was awesome. And I also thank Janet Mataji and Janvi and Will for us to be a part of this whole family ritual, that when he was passing, we get to see him in his last hours, and we chanted in front of him. This actually will stay with us for for a lifetime. And we stayed there for I think 1 hour or 2 hours. We chanted in front of him, and he opened his eyes. He would look at us. He couldn't say anything, but he would look at us as if he's nodding, or he wanted to say pranams or something. So I still remember, he has his chanting beads by him, his kanti mala with him, and everything. So we get to serve him during the last hours of his life. And I have after he left, when we came back home, at I think about 1 hour or so, we came to know that this Makhanacora Prabhu had already left. My daughter, right from her work, she just traveled all the way to Seattle, and then she get to see him too. And then she actually treated Makhanacora Prabhu as her Mridanga guru, because my daughter plays Mridanga, and she says that's how Makhanacora Prabhu used to do. And I said, okay, you want to do, and at that night we did a kirtan, in memory of Makhanacora Prabhu. So like I said, I can go on and on about Makhanacora Prabhu, and he was such a wonderful person, wonderful devotee. And I still remember when he would come here, sometime, I would say, hey, Prabhu, Makhanacora Prabhu, just sit down, relax. I'll give you a head massage. So I used to give him a head massage and foot massage, and so to other devotees too. But, he would stay put after the programs. He would stay put with us, and we would just discuss Krishna pastimes and Prabhupada pastimes, or our group discussions and that kind of thing. So his memories will stay with us forever. And, like one Prabhuji ahead of me, he said, wherever he had gone, we all want to go there too. So by Krishna. And I have no doubt in my mind that he's not with Krishna, he's with Krishna. So thank you for organizing this. Thank you, Makhanacora Prabhu. Please, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and Makhanacora. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So next we'll have Nancy Lee, then Lavanya, and then Yamal or June. And if anyone else I missed or you'd like to speak, you can make a note in the chat box at the bottom, or if you know how to put the raised hand icon, you can do that. And I may even try and voluntold you to speak. So Nancy Lee, can you share something with us?
I just wanted to say very briefly, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I knew Mark as Jeanette's beloved, not as Makhanacora. But seeing these, like the photographs, the slideshow, which was so phenomenal, that just the genuine joy that he showed as a child, that smile, you can see it throughout all of those pictures through his life, just expressing his inner joy and gentleness and honesty that you see throughout his life. And that's what I knew of Mark. Not that I knew him well, not as well as a lot of these people that are sharing their beautiful memories of him. But what I do remember of him is really that smile of his was just magic. You know, he kept it. Even in that picture where he raised his arm while he was laying in bed there, it was like to say, I'm here, and he almost looked like he was smiling to me. But that he could really listen to you. You always felt in his presence that you were the center of his attention. And I really appreciated that. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. And that's my experience with him over the years. He always had that smile. He was always present. He was the most enjoyable person to be with whenever you met him. Lavanya, would you like to say something?
Yeah, we met Makhanacora back in 1985 when we came to the old Seattle temple in Madrona. And, you know, I think we were camping out in the back of our pickup truck because we were working for the Forest Service in Idaho at that time. And, you know, I remember Krishna Vallabha and Makhanacora, they were camping out in their Sankirtan van. That's when they were just getting together. So that was kind of cute, you know, that they were just kind of in love like that. And then later, I got to know him better at Seattle Yatra in the 90s. And, you know, there's so many things we could say about him that have already been said. He was like a jewel, the Makhanacora jewel. And so I don't really want to say the same things that everyone else has talked about, but I just wanted to focus on some of the other facets of that jewel. And it's kind of like, you know, Prabhupada had used the analogy of gold, that you could have different currencies around the world, and it doesn't really matter what the stamp is, but if it's pure gold, it's absolute, you know? So like in our movement, in the early years, a lot of devotees like Makhanacora, they totally surrendered, and they, you know, they were out doing Sankirtan, distributing books and making devotees, and completely like surrendered. But at a certain point, you know, in our organization, as well as other organizations, things radically changed. And, you know, there was a lot of people out there that just didn't really change with the times in the sense of becoming unstuck from that cult energy. And I mean, because there was a lot of really, really great things, you know, but there were some very dysfunctional people and groups of people. And so it was like what I saw in the later part of Makhanacora's life was that he was still a sold out devotee to Krishna and Prabhupada, but, you know, he was like a real person. He was grounded. And he was just one of the few people I could be with that was a devotee that, he was just normal. And it was so reassuring to just be like with someone that was so real. And not only that, but, you know, he didn't need to be a Hare Krishna to be a devotee of God or to spread love of God to humanity. He could do it on any level, really. And that to me was the real, you know, sparkle of his jewel, that he affected so many people on whatever platform that he could resonate with them. It didn't have to be as a Hare Krishna cult member, you know, and I'm not saying that in a negative way, but so, and the other thing too is that Prabhupada, you know, he's come to meet those devotees that were sold out to him. And so I have no doubt that Prabhupada came personally to Makhanacora when he left and took him back to the spiritual world. And I want to thank you, Partha, for this excellent Zoom memorial. You're so good at doing this. And I just really am grateful that I know you're very busy and you took your precious time to do this, and it was just so successful. And thank you everyone for being a part of this.
Well, Lavanya was like a little fairy in the background, putting lots of loose ends together. Couldn't have done it without her. And also Bhava Prabhu gave some help in assembling the slides for the slideshow. So it wasn't all on my shoulders. And some of you maybe came in a little after we showed that slideshow. I'll close by putting that on at the end. And I'll ask Yamal or June. I don't know, is there anyone else who would like to speak? Can you just raise your hand? I'll make a note of your name.
Mahamantra.
Mahamantra. Anyone else? How about Susan O'Brien? Okay, Yamal or June, are you there?
Mahamantra's muted, but he's raising his hand.
Yeah, I'll have was going to let Yamal or June speak first, but he's not unmuting. So Mahamantra, you can.
Very Prabhu.
Okay, Yamal or June, if you can go ahead. And Yamal or June, if you can keep it 2 to 5 minutes.
Okay, thanks, Prabhu. All glories to Makhanacora, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to the assembled Vaishnavas who've spoken so beautifully beyond what I can ever comprehend. I want to thank you very much for what you said. It's very heart-rending to my heart. I'd like to say that I met Makhanacora 1976 and in Vancouver. And I'd like to say one little story, similar to Yoginath Prabhu, a little different, but at that time period anyway, we were on Sankirtan. There was Rajananda, Makhanacora, Yoginath, and myself. And I remember very distinctly, we were in this van, and this is before we actually had the house in Edmonton. But we were on the road and we used to sell carnations and we used to distribute the books, and we were in the van. We all lived in this van together. So that was for quite a while. And it was in the winter months too. So it was very cold at that time, I remember. And I remember Makhanacora, he was always a very grounding person, a loving person. He was a very empowered individual. If I reflect now as the years pass and relationships I've had with him over the years, always steady as a transcendental rock of Gibraltar, you want to say. Very, I can't imagine, no one can be like that unless they're getting the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. It's impossible, because he never got angry at anyone. Everyone loves him, respected him. And it's a rare, like was mentioned, jewel earlier, that no one can really be like that unless if you're getting the mercy of Prabhupada in a steady way. So he was like that from the beginning, right up to his last breath, I totally believe. And there's a lot of statements to verify that. But anyway, I'd like to say that we were on the road and we used to have milk together in that van. We used to do books together. We all slept in that van, all 4 of us, and preached from that van, Srila Prabhupada's words, and we all got along. And I noticed Makhanacora was the grounding agent for that. Otherwise, it wouldn't have happened. I could even feel it then in my early years like that. I could feel this person was really, very mature. And also I noticed that when he would go out and preach, because I was with him many times, they give a carnation, stop somebody as an example. We did at that time period. Then we gave books out. And when he preached, he was so unarming, or disarming people in a loving, kind way. And they left always, every one of them. I saw it every time that they left with a very loving, appreciative response. And that way they're going to be curious about after they gave a donation and read those books. So that was very good. Anyway, that's, and I just want to say that his daughter looks a lot like my daughter, Krishna Chaitanya. I want to let you know that. And I'm also from Sharanagati. Anyway, I pray that Makhanacora, he's with Prabhupada and with Krishna. And I want to, and I'm convinced of that in my own heart of hearts. I want to thank Partha and all these symbol Vaishnavas. And also I want to thank Dhamma Ghosh, Kanimati for all her eloquence, all of Vaishnavas, all of them, all of you. And I want to thank you so, so much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Makhanacora, or Mak. We love you. Please pray for us down here on planet Earth. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mallarjun. We'll have Maha Mantra and then Susan O'Brien. I think she wants to speak. Go ahead, Maha Mantra. You'll have to unmute yourself.
Are you with you? It's okay?
Try again. You're really breaking up.
Okay. Are you there? I don't know what I can do. Can you hear me, Prabhu?
We can hear you. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Are you there?
Yes.
Okay. So it's very wonderful to hear the glories of our Prabhu, Makhanacora. I met Makhanacora back in 1980 when I joined the temple. And we are basically together, 24/7, living in the van a lot of time. And I remember one time we were out in Saskatchewan in the winter, and it was minus 75 wind chill with the wind chill factor. And we looked at each other and we said, I think we should go south like the birds. So we took a big chance, took a big risk, and we set off across the border, and we got through with all paintings, and we just headed south, and we were in like Louisiana, Las Vegas, all these places together. But yeah, we had some amazing adventures together. Many times at the temple, when we'd go back for rest, in Burnaby, I'd look around the property. Where's Makhanacora? Where's Makhanacora? And I'd look over, and he'd be sitting in the red van, in the driver's seat, like he was just waiting to go back on Sankirtan. And like, I don't want to be here. I just want to get back the road. And then I'd look a little closer to the van, and I'd see that he was actually studying Srimad Bhagavatam. So he was very absorbed in the transcendental reality. And the way he played Madhya, I still remember so distinct, like just very, very steady and very, very sweet. Not like making a big show, like trying to show off, he like some devotees, very flamboyant and like a big show. No, he's just playing steadily. And he would give class also many times. He gave Srimad Bhagavatam class. And I remember so sober and so helpful to hear his realizations. And so, it's described that when you give your, Prabhupada said, you've given your youth to Krishna. So Krishna will never forget that. And so we know for sure that Makhanacora is continuing this process. So
Thank you, Mahamantra Prabhu. Now we'll just ask Susan O'Brien.
Makhanacora ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Prabhupada ki jai.
Susan, did you want to say something?
you. Yes, thank you. I had the pleasure of getting to meet Mark about 25 years ago because of Jeanette. And I love strong women. And I also know that it can be really challenging to be in relationship with strong women. It takes a lot of grounding and balance, which Mark definitely had. And in addition to his love and kindness, he also could hold his own. Also, Jonavi and Will are similar ages to our boys, and so we were parenting at the same time, and I always appreciated so much how he chose to parent and was inspired by that. And I just want to say to Will and Jonavi, thank you for your beautiful words today, and thank you for letting me be a part of this.
Thank you, Susan. So I'd like to end by showing the slideshow. We'll just wind down with that. And especially to Jeanette and Will and Jonavi, we know it must be very painful, the separation from your father and your husband. And but one thing I hope you take away from this is how much he touched the heart of everyone he met. Like, everyone actually loved him. He was a very, very dear soul. So, and thank you all for participating. So I'll just run that slideshow and we'll wind it up with that. So thank you all for your participation. Hare Krishna.
Hey no Prabhu Kota Gela Chayata Hey no Prabhu Kota Gela Chayata Kahamara Sarupa Kahasanata Kahamara Sarupa Kahasanata Gata Soraga Nata Jita 세상